It's not easy being a judge, especially when you have to make a ruling that would change a person's life forever, or worse, end it. Apart from having to deal with criminals who are out to kill you right after sentencing, it's heartbreaking that judges have to deal with grown men crying like babies. Blake Jefferson. This is Blake Jefferson. Blake Jefferson was accused of stabbing his mother to death. During a court hearing and ruling, Blake Jefferson, who was at the time clad in an orange jumpsuit, cried and heaved with emotion in front of the whole courtroom at his initial court appearance. Something must have made him snap. Either way, even if he cries hard enough to get the Coast Guard summoned, there is no getting away from this one. Jacob Matthew. This is Jacob Matthew. According to the prosecutor, this young man intentionally burnt his 14-month-old baby brother, walked out of the house, and watched it burn to the ground. While the accused pleaded not guilty, the prosecutor's office had evidence that multiple fires had erupted from the premises in which he and his younger brother were in. This proved that the accused had intentionally lit the fires in the house. He also didn't make any attempt to try and save his little brother, or even call 911 for backup. During the prosecutor's statement, the accused could be seen weeping and saying a silent prayer. That doesn't save him from being convicted, though. Daniel Holtzclaw. Holtzclaw was accused of sexually assaulting 12 women and a 17-year-old girl between December 2013 and June 2014 while working as a police officer, and sometimes while on duty. The jury concluded that he was guilty after all the court testimonies were over. The accused man couldn't help crying his eyes out like a baby while the judge read his sentence. He was crying uncontrollably. The court marshals had to support him to stand over on the bench while the judge read his sentencing. The man had been accused of raping some women who had testified and identified him as a serial rapist. Luis Lorenzo Vargas. Well, this is a different kind of breakdown. While most of the grown men on this list broke down into tears after sentencing for the crimes that they had committed, Luis Lorenzo broke down uncontrollably because his conviction was tossed after spending 16 years behind bars. Back in 1999, Mr. Lorenzo warned the judge before sentencing that he was innocent and the person who had committed the rape assaults might be outside there raping someone. True to his word, 16 years later, the court found him innocent, and Lorenzo could not help but break down into tears. He had been sentenced to life for 3 sexual assaults. Anders Breivik. Anders Breivik was on trial for the murder of 77 people in twin attacks that took place in Norway. He was captured by cameras crying his heart out after the judge finally made his ruling. He later confessed to reporters that he was not in tears due to the sentencing, but because he was sad to see his country dying. Whether Breivik was crying because of the sentencing or not, we can never be sure. But one thing we are sure of is that he broke down immediately after sentencing. Either way, a bad man is behind bars, and the world is a little bit happier and safer. Aaron Hernandez. While the former New England Patriots star, Aaron Hernandez, died mysteriously by hanging himself days after his acquittal, he still earns a slot on this list for his actions before his death. The ex-NFL player who was serving a life sentence at the Souza Baranowski Correctional Facility broke down into an uncontrollable teardrop session. Besides his defense attorney after the judge found him not guilty for the shooting of 2 men back in 2012 in a drive-by shooting in Boston. He broke down in tears and was even captured blowing kisses to his daughter right after the ruling on his case. George Brinkman Jr. This is George Brinkman Jr. He was charged with 5 murders that included a 71-year-old man, 64-year-old lady, 45-year-old lady, 21-year-old young woman, an 18-year-old teenage girl, could help whining and crying like a baby as he was ordered held on $75 million bond, $25 million for each of the victims. George Brinkman Jr. was captured crying as the judge read the sentence in Parma Municipal Court. He was shackled, and one of his arms was in a cast as he looked down through most of the court hearing process. If the crying meant he was sorry, there is a fat chance he is getting away with it. Drake Campbell. A 23-year-old man cried like a baby in magistrate's court moments after being sentenced to 2 years at Bahamas Department of Correctional Services after being accused of a dozen charges that range from death threats to assaulting a police officer. This embarrassing tearful display came after the magistrate questioned him over the accusation that he had stolen items worth $3,375 after breaking into a woman's Marshall Road home. The 23-year-old man pleaded guilty of all the charges and asked the magistrate to forgive him since he was homeless and had nowhere to stay. Well, if you ask me, he has a new home in the Bahamas and hundreds of family members behind the cage. At least he won't be alone this Christmas. That was it for today's video. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to our channel and hit the like button.